Let's go. Game 2, Knicks and Pacers. The drama of this series has been ridiculous, and it would continue into last night. Jalen Brunson, he's been so brilliant. The last thing in the world the Knicks can afford is for him to go down. Jay will watch it here. Toppin makes the shot. Jay Williams, we're going to see Jalen Brunson asking out of the game. We'll show it again. What do you see?
I don't really see anything. At first, a lot of speculation around would this be a hand injury, but obviously it was called or deemed a right foot injury. Didn't see where it happened from, but that's going to be something critical playing forward.
He would not return for the rest of the first half. Oh, and then it's Miles Turner.
My goodness, Miles Turner. One thing Indiana did, they put pressure in the paint at times during this game, and Tyrese Halliburton came out aggressive. He learned his lesson from game 1, made an adjustment for game 2.
He had 34 last night. Knicks minus 17 without Brunson on the floor in the first half. And then, the Willis Reed moment at halftime.
Calm down. Everybody calm down.
That's my favorite part.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Oh,
for him to be a hero like he has been throughout the course of this entire postseason, I don't know how he does it.
Look at him, plus the free throw, and it's more from Jalen Brunson working it around, getting the ball to the corner, and then it's OG Anunoby so good with 28 points last night. The last thing in the world they could afford is for him to get hurt. Oh, my goodness. Off the defensive play. Great pass from Brunson. OG. Oh, no. What do we see here, guys?
Blew a tire.
Blew a tire. I mean, that's the hamstring, right? And that's as bad as it could possibly
You're playing
look.
42, 50, 44 minutes each and every single night. It's bound to happen.
Off he goes. We'll get into exactly what we expect from that in a few minutes, but it's the last thing in the world this MASH unit could possibly
Come on,
unslog.
mash is the perfect word because he puts them in a blender with his physicality. This is a guy that is cool, calm, and collected, but he showed the emotions of pushing through adverse situations last night.
Fourth quarter, it's clutch time because it always is. DiVincenzo, one of his 6 threes for the Knicks, who are up by 5. And then more Jalen Brunson getting work done in the painted area.
I mean, he just has the ability. His eyes find the rim. He finishes over defenders. It's been incredible. He's had his way.
Now, controversial moment here. Isaiah Hartenstein. You see the official on the bottom left of your screen clearly calling a double dribble. Watch it again. Clearly no double dribble. The right hand never touches the ball. They overturn it. It's not challenged. They just decide to change their mind, and Rick Carlisle loses his. Not happy at all on the sideline, and he's not making any secret of it. Ensuing Knicks possession. Jay Will, come on.
I mean, just getting by Nembhard whenever he wants. There's nothing Nembhard could do. Too small defensively.
29 points for Brunson, played the entire second half, and then Rick Carlisle had seen enough in the final moments, called for 2 tees. He gets thrown out. Knicks, another night of drama, somehow managed to win it in the clutch again. 130-121 the final. They take a 2-0 series lead, and afterwards, a frustrated Indiana coach said the quiet part out loud.
Their physicality is rewarded and ours is penalized. Just, time after time. Small market teams deserve an equal shot. They deserve a fair shot. No matter where they're playing.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. The coach of the Indiana Pacers, who is a championship-level coach, has won championships in Dallas, longtime player, been in the league as long as anybody can remember, essentially saying, hey, we're Indiana. We deserve the same shot that the bright lights from New York get. You're there. You're sort of living in every moment of us. Add to it here.
So the Pacers took the high road after game 1 with those controversial calls. Obviously, they boiled over in game 2. I personally, watching it, didn't feel this game was officiated that differently, but the Pacers did. And let me tell you how much they did. Carlisle said after the game that they identified 26 calls from game 1 that they thought went against them unfairly. And they were going to send those to the league. And they decided not to because they wanted to take the high road. Well, they're done with that. And from what I am told, through the night, the Pacers worked. And early this morning, they submitted 49 calls that they feel they were wronged about in game 2. And while they were on the server, they slapped the other 29 calls from game 1 to submit what they feel is 78 missed calls that went against them from game 1 to game 2. And by the way, the Knicks automatically get copied on that. So when the Knicks wake up, they're going to have 78 clips should they want to review them.
Yes.
And so what I think this is going on here, obviously they're trying to make a point, but my view is that the Pacers, looking at how banged up the Knicks are, they think this series is absolutely still in play, and they want to make the officiating a factor to help them going into Game 3 in Indiana.
Shanae, here's the way we're going to look at this thing this morning. Game 1, we made the officiating the story, and Rick Carlisle did not. Game 2, he made the officiating the story. Do we believe the officiating was a factor last night?
Last night, not so much, because over the course of this series, the 2 games, there's only a 6 foul or so differential. But the truth of the matter is it hurts where you can see in Game 2 a call being, waved off versus a circumstance in Game 1 where people did not like that moving screen call. So I think that truly hurt. That pained them. But what they have realized is that they need everything on their side in order to beat the Knicks, because somehow the Knicks are defying all expectation, playing multiple minutes, coming through in the clutch. I think, what are they, 6-1 in clutch time so far this postseason? They have a reason to be mad based off of taking the high road. You know what they say, when they go low, we go high, right? Taking the high road from Game 1, but at the end of the day in Game 2, they had an opportunity. Jalen Brunson was off of the floor. They could have really expanded that game, and I think I saw this more so as Coach Carlisle, who's one of the best coaches, if you look historically in his wins, whether it is regular season or postseason, trying to galvanize his guys. Those weren't necessarily texts that you see when you're mad at a play or a call. It's more so like, guys, we have to leave it all on the floor. He was trying to elicit an emotional response that they can carry over. And lastly, I'll say this. The officiating goes as home court goes.
Had the same exercise, how many fouls they think didn't go their way or got called against them. So I always take it with a grain of salt when an organization is like, we thought all of these fouls went against us. Of course you did. Every organization thinks a lot of fouls get called against them. I personally, when I was watching Game 2, there was no point where I thought, this is being called in the Knicks way in a very significant fashion. There were actually a couple of drives from Anunoby where he got bumped, and I'm like, they could have called that a foul, and they didn't. So I thought
There's one.
I thought Game 2.
One. Did you see
was
the
it the
Josh
moving
Hart?
screen?
Yeah.
The Josh Hart shoving in the back.
That one?
Wide in the open floor. They have a reason to be mad because that was not a clean play.
That one and the moving, there was a screen in full court. It was a screen that I thought
This is it right
could have been an
here.
issue.
That
That's
play
unbelievable.
infuriated the Pacers because Tyrese Halliburton has a bad back, which is on the injury report. They felt this was a dirty play.
Yep.
And the fact that there was no call. That will be on the list of the 49. That will be number 1.
Thank you.
That's at the
Highest
top of
on
the list.
list.
But that's a dirty play. I don't think that's a physicality thing. Like when Rick Carlisle said their physicality is rewarded, ours is penalized. That's not physicality. That's a completely different level.
That's a foul, and it isn't called. That's what he's saying. He's saying they committed a foul, and it wasn't called.
I just felt like that was a political play by Rick Carlisle.
Right.
It sets it up for Game 3.
Yep.
And to me, when I hear the whole smaller market, Philly's not a smaller market, and they had the same issues, right? So you can lose me with that narrative. The narrative is that they got their tails whooped defensively. I mean, they gave up 130 points on 92 possessions. That's the worst defensive performance out of any team this postseason, by the way. And in a game where Jalen Brunson didn't play pretty much the first quarter and the second quarter, and a game in which there's no Mitchell Robinson, and the game in which Julius Randle's not on the court, and the game in which OG came out in the third, you have every excuse not to win that game. Be better defensively and win that game.
The Knicks scored 67 points, to your point, in the second half. They shot 57% from the floor for the game, the Knicks did. So that part of
They
that...
shot 57% from the floor and 47% from the three-point line in Game 2. They shot 53% from the field in Game 1 and 44% from the three-point line in Game 1.
But this is nothing new about the Pacers. We all know that their defense has struggled. They relied on outscoring teams. But if you can't outscore the Knicks, especially when Brunson's off the floor for at least 12 minutes straight,
that's what I'm saying.
That's the big
Like, my
issue.
thing, the narrative is not officiating. The narrative is if you're slightly better defensively,
or
you win
well-rounded.
this game.
How much better defensively can they really? How much better defensively do we actually think the Pacers can be?
I don't think their strategy has ever been defensive. It's always been they've won games by averaging more than 123 points.
They're not going to win this series with defense. They're going to win this series because the Knicks run out of gas.
I hear you. For
Bodies.
me personally, I like TJ McConnell guarding him down the stretch.
Why was he not in the game?
I know there's liability for him offensively, but when a dude scores 24 of his 29 points in the second half,
Thank you.
even if he's bumping him up, at least he gets up underneath him.
Thank you.
Nembhard is getting destroyed. He's getting shot over whenever Jalen Brunson wants to. Go with the better defensive player down the stretch.
And you know, I was watching this down the stretch. We know Jalen Brunson is leading the league right now in the postseason in fourth quarter scoring and also clutch points, which is impressive coming off of playing with maybe 1.5 legs, like one leg. But I want to show you this tape because everyone also knows he dribbles the ball to really control the pace of the game. And when you see these next few plays, I'm calling it the Brunson boogie. The Brunson boogie. Because when he starts tempo dribbling, again, he's so good on Nembhard. 14 of 21 from the field goals, between the legs, between the legs. He is setting you up to take over. And then look at this, he's blowing kisses. I love you, New York. Again, he's taking his time, tremendous spacing. The Brunson boogie dribbles, crossover, getting into his bag, tough shot. This is a guy that is 6'1", 6'2", turnaround on Nembhard. He's generated 33 points on 14 of 21 shooting. Yo, he's dancing.
He's boogieing.
He's boogieing. It's the Brunson boogie.
Where are his hands? His hands are down.
Yeah.
Like when you watch Jaden McDaniels and other guys play, they have one hand up all the time, tracing you, moving you, staying up in your pocket. You never play somebody who can shoot over the top of you with your arms down, ever.
I asked Rick this question after the game, whether he would consider going with T.J. McConnell more down the stretch, and he said it'll be under consideration. I asked T.J. McConnell if he thought he should play more down the stretch, and T.J. said, Rick Carlisle's a Hall of Fame coach. I support his decision.
Which is the right thing for him to say.
Yes.
Look, this is always a tough decision coaches have to make because you're supposed to dance with the one that brung you when you get to the biggest moment. 8 postseason games so far. So every one of their games, save for one, has gone to clutch time. The only one they lost is the Tyrese Maxey game in Game 5 at the Garden, where he went insane. The Knicks had a 6-point lead with 30 seconds left. So what they have been, these are supposed to be toss-ups, right? I mean, bottom line of it is you're supposed to be roughly 50-50 in clutch time. That's how this league is built. That's how sports are built. To be 6-1, with that being the outlier, is almost impossible to do. So how are they doing it? Is it as simple as saying Jalen Brunson is on the kind of role that we have almost never seen before?
Yes, but they are also robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Which is
because the way that Josh Hart has not sat in 10 quarters. 10 quarters. OG Anunoby was averaging 46 minutes over the last 4 games coming into this moment. He'd never played that much in a 4-game span in his career. They're riding super hard and winning super close. I will never forget what happened in the arena last night when Jalen Brunson came out. The arena was half empty. Everybody's in the concourse as Jalen Brunson comes in and there's people streaming in. That's amazing. But how can this continue?
Yeah.
And the Pacers know this.
By the way, the Brunson return coming on the anniversary of the Willis-Reed game where Reed limps out onto the floor. Marv says, here comes Willis, and he scores 4 points, and then Walt Frazier wins a championship that night for the first in Knicks history. This is the 54th anniversary of that last night. Brunson came out and played the entire second half on 1 foot and led the way. But Wendy's point is right. Can the Knicks keep overcoming these injuries?
Well, my point too, and even when you look at the minutes that are played, even that is a little misleading because it's not like they're playing at a slow pace.
Yeah.
They're playing fast. They're leading the playoffs in fast break points. So it's not like they're just out there walking the ball down the court, taking their time. They're playing a ton of minutes and they're playing extremely fast. I do have a ton of question marks when it comes to how can they keep this up going to Indiana, a team that is now going to be try and be physical, like Coach Carlisle said, and play as fast as possible. The Pacers are going to try and run them off the court.
I just think the Knicks are a better team, and it always comes down to execution. And even with the conditioning level of Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and OG, we'll see if OG is able to play. I don't think he will be able to, which is going to be an issue for them going forward. I'm still going to have the Knicks' favor because of Jalen Brunson.
Get out of here.
Yes.
You believe that if OG, well, let me start with this question. Do you believe we will see OG Anunoby again? Wendy is not a doctor, but you're there
Well,
every
he'll
minute.
have an MRI. He has a hamstring injury. He will have an MRI today that will determine the severity of that hamstring injury, but there's no way that the Knicks can plan on having him tomorrow. I just can't see it
The
possible.
next 2 games are back-to-back. They play tomorrow night, then Sunday afternoon.
I just can't. Also, OG is very careful in his career coming back from injuries. I mean, I'm not going to get out over my skis here, but I would be stunned if we saw OG by this.
You're telling me without OG Anunoby, the Knicks, who are playing 7 guys as it is,
I'm telling you.
who's replacing him?
Well, I'm telling you, with the Knicks not having Jalen Brunson, the first 2 quarters are still in the ball game.
Also, I don't
They're
know.
right there. So, it's not that far off.
Also,
I don't hate it.
I don't know how Jalen's foot's going to feel. I don't know what they did.
Okay.
He was in the back for 45 minutes. I don't know what they did
Wendy?
back there.
And after the game, they asked him, hey, are you excited going on the road? And he was like, we will see. It wasn't like a definitive answer because I think he was running a lot on that adrenaline coming in the second half. I mean, when you saw him, you were watching every one of his plays. He did not have any explosion. I was watching how he finished. I was like, how is he doing it? So it's going to be a big question mark. But still.
It's Jalen Brunson.
But still.
It's the hefty lefty.
For some reason, when it comes to this New York squad, they always find someone to step up. Did you guys see Isaiah Hartenstein yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did is if you're going to try to take minutes off of Jalen Brunson, which they did in the second half by trapping him, particularly in the fourth quarter, they played with the advantage. Hartenstein, I think his team shot 8 for 10 for 20 points off of his passes. He looked like Jokic.
Floater is great.
He looked like Jokic.
Greeny, there's a reason
right.
why they call him Big Body Brunson.
Right.
It's like a Mercedes-Benz. You don't try to rush in places. You're going to get to wherever you want to go in a in a really cool, calm, and collective way. Even with the foot, I'm telling you, even with Brunson having the foot injury, he can still get to places on the court where he wants to go, even if he doesn't have the explosiveness.
OG Anunoby is, what is he, about 6'8"? I mean,
Yes.
he is a critical piece. He scored
Critical
28
piece.
points last night.
He
He's
carried
critical.
them. He scored 22 in the first half
Right.
to carry them while Brunson was
And
out.
even more importantly, when it comes to OG Anunoby, his matchup was Pascal Siakam. Did you notice when OG went out, Pascal started cooking?
Yeah.
Particularly, I think it was around the third quarter, early into the fourth. I think if I'm looking at game 3, I'm saying, Pascal, we've seen some huge performances in round 1. We need you to be aggressive without OG. I mean, they didn't have anyone really to guard him. It was just that Pascal was missing. I see a big game for him in 3.
Andrea and I both love the movie Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail.
Bring out your dead.
With the legendary, there's that scene, but then there's the legendary knight who just, tis not a flesh wound, where they just keep cutting parts of his body off, and he keeps saying, no problem, I can still continue this fight.
That's
Without
the
OG
Knicks.
Anunoby,
That's the
J-Lo,
Knicks.
how are they going to do it? But who's coming? Precious Achua? I mean, who are they putting on the floor? They've lost Mitchell Robinson, they've lost Bogdanovich. Now, if they have lost OG Anunoby, which it certainly looked like last night, I'm not a doctor, but I've seen enough guys grab their hamstring like that. They don't play in the next 3 days. I think the Knicks are in big trouble.
As a betting man, it's just hard for me to bet against the Knicks, seeing even the way they execute, Grinny. And you talk about losing people, fine, but they still find a way to out-execute. I think Indiana's a fast-paced team, and when you play that many possessions, you try to think less. You're more reactive. I think the Knicks think through things better than the Pacers.
Andrea, help me with this. The game is tomorrow night in Indiana.
Yeah.
That may
Then
be a tough one.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Then back to the Garden Tuesday night. There isn't an extra day off in this series until between games 5 and 6. If there is a game 6, that will be Friday. So they would go, just for those of you who are not following, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, then they get a couple of days off. I mean, I don't know when these
You don't think
guys
the
are
Knicks
never
can
going to
steal
get
one
their
in
chance to
Indiana?
rest. What's that?
You don't think the Knicks can steal one in Indiana? That's your
Without
goal.
Anunoby, I think it is going to be very, very hard for them. Who gets his minutes? I don't even know who else they have.
I think because Miles McBride is on the shorter end, and we're just talking about guarding Pascal Siakam, I think it has to be Precious Achua.
He's on the much shorter end.
Last night, Miles McBride.
Miles McBride. Not Precious.
Miles McBride is like 6'1".
Last night, Miles McBride, -22. Precious Achua, -14.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Brunson, plus 26. If Brunson can play, they'll be all right. If he can't,
That's what
It's on, yeah, it's on.
Look at Wendy. Just drop it. That was a mic drop.